How's it going?
Greetings.
Yeah, the Greg here. Johnny is on vacation this week. He is enjoying sunny Florida with his family, hopefully with a drink in his hand by now as his, not really an infant, but his child. I mean, she's approaching child age, out of toddler into child. Hopefully she's in bed and he and his wife are just having a good time, having a cocktail on a balcony or something like that. So
you don't think he's watching this?
You know what? He's probably going to get an update. I tempted even just to not tell him that we were going to go live, or that we were doing a show and have him be like, what's happening? How can this be? But I needed passwords and stuff to be able to do this. So I'm like, hey, guess what? Kent's going on. Anyway, I'm hearing my own voice pipe through and that's annoying. So yeah, he may hop on and say hello. We'll see. If he watches his own show when he's on vacation, that'd be kind of, I don't know. Is that arrogance? I don't know. Anyway, so I brought on Ken. Ken's back with us. He's been on the show before, friend of the show. We're going to be talking some movie stuff. But first, please appease the internet gods and go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm going to put our link in the chat. It's just johnnyandthegreg.com. If you want to go and like us on that format, that is like the streaming format, the Podbean is what they call it. So that gets us one. And then if you're watching us on the YouTubes, go ahead and like us on the YouTubes. If you're watching us on the Facebooks, go ahead and like us on the Facebooks. And to appease the other internet gods, Ken, are you a fan of audiobooks at all?
Absolutely am. I actually do some voiceover work for audiobooks every once in a while.
You
but
do?
I love listening to them. I do.
Oh,
I do.
Wow. That is something that we will have to have you on a different show for, because we were just talking about that. John and I were talking about that. Like, how do people get involved in that? And I see TikToks of people that they have their, even just like their laptop and like a hood with a iPad set up for the script, and they're just narrating. And I think that is awesome.
It's a lot easier to get into now than it was a couple, even 5-10 years ago. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, we are partnered with Audible, which is, I think, the largest audiobook place on the internets and in the world. So we're at audibletrial.com/JATG. And you can go there and get hundreds of thousands of audiobooks. Can you talk about, are you on Audible at all, or have you
I'm not on Audible.
Books? Okay.
Not there. That's at least that's the show.
Yeah,
right?
that's the Broadway of audiobooks, I would suspect.
Right. Most people have been doing it for a long time, and you got to trial and error.
Yeah.
And you really get popular, and it's getting to know authors that like you, and they come and choose you again to do their stuff. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I would say is that people go get your Audible subscription right now at audibletrial.com/JATG. You get 30 days to get all the audiobooks that you can get. That's your subscription. Whatever you buy while you're on there, you get to keep. It's totally yours forever, even if you cancel your subscription to Audible. But with that, you get, fantasy, mystery, drama, every genre you can think of. You can get podcasts on there, and those are actually free. You can get podcasts like this on Audible. You can get educational material, educational materials. You can get that on Audible, where you're going to be, just getting some learning or some self-development and things like that. And all of that for 30 days on us. If you don't like it, cancel, and no hard feelings there. But like I said, it's yours to keep. It's fantastic. So again, audibletrial.com/JATG. Go check it out. So,
yeah, driving down the road, man, even going, you got traffic in your city, you listen to an audiobook. It's a wonderful thing. You get to get some reading in, get some more education in your head, and still enjoy some fantasy or fiction.
That's what I miss. The one thing I miss when my job eventually became just totally remote is I kind of missed a little bit of a commute. I had Now, I had a big commute at the last place I was at, which was about an hour. And the place I'm at, when we were in the office, I had about 20 minutes, which was kind of that perfect bite size. And I could clear like a 1 hour podcast just about on my way home and then on my way back, or way to work, way home. But then if I had a day where it's just like, hey, I need to just block out the world, because I do like some data entry and stuff like that, I really got into just listening at my desk, putting a sign on the back of my chair that says Greg's working, and if you talk to Greg, he's going to get distracted. So I would put on the headphones or put in the earbuds and just start killing, podcasts and audiobooks as I press the buttons on the computer. So yeah. So we are here today, and we're actually going to be talking about our favorite fight scenes in movies. And this is kind of, you go through a lot of these. Oh, you can see my list right on there if I don't move it. So we're talking about those, but we came up with some lists. We tried to come up with some genres, and that was tough, because how do you separate some of these? And yeah, you got a lot more than I did. I tried to limit myself a little bit, because when you and I have done these list shows in the past, I've got this huge list, and John's like, I came up with 2. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but now it's just me talking the whole time.
Just a rabbit hole.
So what do you want to hit up first? What do you want for a category first?
I got swords up on top.
Okay, let's do sword. Yeah, that was my first 2. So these are sword fights. I mean, famous sword fights that I'm guessing that we're going to have some crossover, being fan of films. And I do want to talk about you real quick. The reason I really thought of you anytime we talk about movies, I think it can. And I thought growing up, I had some special gift of movie knowledge, because everybody said, Greg, you just know movies so well. And they would of course, Greg works at the video store. Where else in town would Greg work? All this stuff. And then one day I meet Ken Williams, and you have knowledge that tucked away in your brain, I can't believe, actors' names, what they've been in, who they starred with, and 20 other projects that they've done. And I just don't have the brain space for that. So I immediately think of you anytime I have a movie question, or when we're looking for people to talk about movie stuff. So again, thank you for being on.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm an educator and an actor, so I don't make money. So I have to have some sort of ability to showcase, and that's what God gave me.
Yeah, that's your mutant ability is movie knowledge.
To remember movie knowledge. Yeah.
Off topic, but when people play trivia games about movies, is it like you versus the rest of the room? Is that how they usually run it?
It depends.
Or do they just not want to play with you?
Part of the reason I do, I love movies, and that's part of it, and it sticks with me, is because I grew up with a group of guys who are probably on the same level as me. Nice. There are a couple of guys I know that I've had to keep up with, and that usually keeps you on your toes when you're bouncing back and forth. But games we played, we do lines back and forth from different movies and switch it up. You'd have to name a character and then a movie and then another character and another movie. Back and forth. That's, those are the games we played. We didn't always play D&D.
How do you, because I have a similar game that we learned in line for a roller coaster in California. We call it film. And it's like horse, where you're going back and forth. And then if you get stuck, then you get an F. And then eventually when you spell film, you're out of the game.
We didn't call it film, but yeah, that was pretty much it. It was you name an actor, you have to name a film they're in, another actor from that film, and so on and so forth until you get stuck. Yeah.
And we did have challenge rules where you could challenge, where if you said Bruce Willis and I said Die Hard and somebody goes challenge, then I have to name a different Bruce Willis film, so they give them a chance if they can't name anybody else from Die Hard. So yeah,
or we could challenge back, right? If I said Bruce Willis and they didn't say, they could say challenge to me.
Yep.
And I'd have to,
Wow. It's funny because it was literally, we're a random couple in line. We're at Disneyland. A random couple was playing this game, and I was kind of, they were right behind us, and they're like, "Do you guys want to play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." Yeah. What are you doing here? And they taught us the game, and we had made the line go really quick, and it was really cool. And we rode the coaster, and we never saw them again. But this is 20 years later. And Johnny is on watching the show. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Post what you're drinking there, John. And if you say water, I'm going to be disappointed. All right. So, yeah, before we got sidetracked on our sidetrack, swords. Swords are the category. So, as our guest, I'm going to let you go first.
Start with my top or my bottom?
Whatever you want. I didn't even put them in order. It was just whatever kind of hit me.
All right. Well, this is my number one. This is the one I always, whenever we talk about fights, especially sword fights, this is the one I always go to.
Mm-hmm.
Seiji Miyaguchi is his name, versus some rando. As Mifune's trying to gather these guys together to fight a local magistrate, Seven Samurai.
Yep.
That sword fight that where the guy thinks he's got him, and he's like, no, it's a tie, and he's like, no, I would have got you, and then Zagochi, I believe is his name in the film. He says, okay, all right, I'm gonna show you.
Yep.
And in 5 moves, the dude's on the ground.
That's a great scene, and I really. As I was going through the films, I was trying to think of things that I know, like a lot of people that I would talk to, if I would say Seven Samurai beyond Ken Williams, people would be like, never heard of it. But it is one of the best samurai films, if not the best samurai film, I think, ever made. And that is a fantastic one.
Absolutely.
The first one I have on my list, because it's kind of the one that I think really hit me as a kid, that I was like, this is some real sword fights. Princess Bride, Man in Black / Wesley versus Inigo Montoya. On the cliffs, going around. And I saw there was I've seen him on YouTube, but then there was also a documentary called Reclaiming the Blade. And it was all about, it was one of the first Netflix things I ever watched. It was a documentary about how swords, came from almost like a weapon of war to almost a status symbol to now kind of this legendary thing that if you have a sword in your house, that is a conversation piece. And I have one hanging in my house, and it is a conversation piece. People come up to like, is that a sword? I'm like, yeah, it is. And it's in like this spot where people can see it. They're like, is it real? I'm like, oh yeah, it's a real sword. But that was the thing. The expert in that documentary said, this is one of the best because they're literally fencing. It's not, there is stage combat, of course, involved, but a lot of sword fights. And this is tough where you can see guys that are literally attacking the sword instead of the person. And that's just the difference between stage combat versus real combat when it comes to sword fighting. You can see that. And they said, no, right here and here and here, these guys are actually trying to hit each other and they're doing real defense. And so that was a big thing.
Beautiful. It's on my list too. I love that. I love that scene and the banter and the back and forth.
Oh, it's the swashbuckleriness of it all is
fantastic.
And I remember when I sat down, there's a woman in my life. Kathy is her name. My kids call her Grandma Kathy. It's my mom's best friend. And she sat us down, and they had 2 boys. She had 2 boys that were the same age as my brother and I. And she sat us down and she said, you guys are going to watch The Princess Bride. And we were so Fred Savage. Just, no. God, Princess, what is this? We don't want to watch this. And, by the time you get to that fencing scene, we're like,
I'm all in.
This is amazing. This is an amazing movie. So yeah, that stuck with me. So what else
awesome.
You got?
Let's see here. I picked this one. This is probably what I like. The movie was but I love some of the fight scenes, and a lot of it was because of the swords and the way they reacted. This is from Troy. This is the Brad Pitt, Eric Bana scene.
Yep.
I like that fight scene, and I like the way they attack each other, and I thought it was very well choreographed.
Mm-hmm. And choreograph was huge, and a lot of how to do sword and shield, which is you don't see a lot of that done really well. I think in Hollywood films, it's mostly just hit the shield, hit the sword, hit the shield, hit the sword. And that was great. Brad Pitt in his kind of duck and weave style was really cool. I like that one a lot.
All right, what you got next?
Next on my list is Liam Neeson versus Tim Roth in Rob Roy.
This is on a lot of lists. It's a lot of people I talk to really like that one.
Now, Rob Roy, which I think has for me one of the most horrific rape scenes in a film, which is why I don't watch it a lot. I mean, but it is a great film. And Tim Roth plays this foppish Englishman who's using a very thin rapier type blade, very quick movements, where Rob Roy he's a Scotsman.
Cutlass.
Yeah, the huge basket hilts. And both of them are renowned fighters in their styles. And to see that fight at the end, oh man. And you know what, the movie's been out for 20 years, so I don't care if we talk about and spoil stuff for people. But when Liam Neeson he's stuck and he's been pinpricked like how many times, and then he just grabs it and kind of like pulls it out of him, and you know, he's got the blood on his hands, and then that cleaver just comes down. You're like, oh man, fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great scene. I enjoy that one a lot.
And Johnny has a pina colada.
Pina colada.
Pina colada. Very nice.
You like pina coladas?
Yeah.
Getting caught in the rain. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh, so many lists that was on. Fantastic, beautiful.
Michelle Yeoh, Ziyi Zhang, the one where they're in the temple. Where
it took me a while. Beauty. It really took me a while. That one didn't hit me right away. I remember watching it. Yeah, I remember watching it in the theater, but I was, early 20s when that film came out. And I had taken like a workshop in stage combat, and I hadn't trained in martial arts yet. So I was just looking at it as this fight, and I didn't quite get the floppy sword piece. Now I do. Now I watch it, and I'm like, the level of control that she was supposed to have. And then the legendary sword of like, this doesn't work just for anybody. It's like somebody trying to fight with Thor's hammer when they're only barely able to lift it.
Right.
And so that's what part of the story of it. It just took me a while. I think it was the 20-year-old brain where you're looking for all testosterone kind of fight, and here's this beautiful piece. But now, yeah, I will YouTube that scene or that movie just for that scene. Just go straight gorgeous. There and watch it and go, oh, fantastic.
So gorgeous. The way they attacked each other. Michelle Yeoh picking up different weapons and just showing how important that blade is. It's just a fantastic scene.
Yep. Next up for me, not one of my favorite films, but I like the fight scene, is Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan versus Anakin.
I was gonna ask, are lightsabers counted here?
I think so, because it is swordplay, and Johnny's even on the line here. He said, does Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul count? And I would say yes.
That's on my list. Yeah,
that is. I think going back and watching the original Star Wars films, episodes 1, 2, and 3, where Alex Gallard was the sword master, and it's all very, I guess I'd say stiff. Kind of sword play, but fit the Hollywood motif at the time. And then as the Legend of the Jedi grew through the novels and whatnot, and what George gave us, and I'm ashamed to say I don't know who the fight choreographer was for episodes 1, 2, and 3, but I know Ray Park definitely brought his own style and kind of that wushu, the Eastern style into it. And just fantastic, beautiful. When you watch Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and then you go and read the novelization and get like some of the subtext that you might not get as you're just watching the film and seeing the flashing lights and things like that. But when you see what's happening internally, hey, how's it going? Sorry, off camera. See what's happening internally, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa. There's so much, and even the actors knew that part, so they're packing so much emotion into this fight. It is literally two brothers that feel betrayed, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it right now. And then the kineticism and everything else that they do is just fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to Kenobi or Obi-Wan, the series, to see how they handle that. Got to see what's going on.
There's a couple of characters I'm hoping will pop up in there.
Yeah, me too. Very much so. Darth Maul.
Maybe Cal Kestis.
Maybe. I hope so. My son and I were talking about that. Is Cal going to be kind of brought in? I said it'd be easy. I mean, the mocap for the actor was it was his face. I mean, come on, just bring him right in. That's a sidetrack and a half. So let's stick to the sword fights. What do you got next?
My next one, it's not a sword fight per se, but they are longer weapons with blades on them, so I'm counting it.
Okay.
Probably my favorite movie. I'd say top 5 all time.
Okay.
Last of the Mohicans at the end.
Ooh,
when Wes Studi takes on Russell Means and Eric Schweig, that whole sequence when he's chasing after Cora is just amazing.
Yeah, I did. You know what? That didn't even hit my lexicon when I was thinking about these fight scenes, but that is amazing. Really well shot. The music added so much to it, and then Wes Studi. Oh yeah, just Wes Studi. Just what a badass. I mean, just. And you didn't see that like at any other point in the film. I mean, you knew he was a warrior, but you didn't see him just open up like that and just take out dude after dude. And you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know what that weapon was that he had. Kind of that. It was almost like a wooden thing. Is that the one I'm thinking of?
That was Russell Means. Russell Means had the wooden. It was like a wooden stake with a spike coming out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Wes Studi was the Mohawk, or not the Mohawk. He was
the Tomahawk, right?
The Algonquin. He had a tomahawk and a blade.
Yeah. That's I was mixing my guys up there, but yeah, that wooden thing with the spike on the end, and when he does the Wes Studi's arm, you're just like, oh, jeez. Yeah, fantastic. Next up for me is Mask of Zorro, where it's Zorro versus the army, where Antonio Banderas has snuck into the compound. And it's the first point where you really see him be in full-on Zorro fashion. And I just thought it was just a fun scene. I mean, everything, again, the music, the cinematography, as he's fighting the two guys, and, it's almost ridiculous, but such swashbuckling fun. And I just had a blast with it.
That's a great scene. I love that movie. I think that movie's underrated. Honestly, I thought it was really well done, and I like Antonio Banderas as Zorro. I thought he was great. What am I looking for here? Oh, that's what I'm looking for. My other, Princess Bride was on my list. Qui-Gon and Maul and Obi was on my list. The other one that I was thinking was, it was a movie called Hero.
Oh, so much stuff from Hero. Yeah,
there honestly, it's one of those movies where I could name just about any of the genres on this list could be. There's a sword fight in there that is just freaking amazing.
Yeah,
where he ends up like jabbing the guy in the eye, and it was just an amazing. If you like fight scenes, check out the whole movie.
Yeah, are we talking about the one the one of the swords had the rings kind of down the back edge of it? Yeah, that was amazing. There was a time point, this was before streaming, and I would go to Comic-Cons, and there was one dude who had like Asian films, like just the Asian release market where, they hadn't come to America yet. And he would just cut me these crazy deals, and I'd go in and I'd buy like, 16, 20 films and just bring them all back. So I had Hero like well before anybody around here had really even heard of it. And I'm like, guys, you got to see this movie. It's so good.
Fantastic. And Jet Li is just, the guy's just,
he's amazing.
A beast.
He's
a beast.
Yep. And that's where I discovered Donnie Yen, was through getting those films. And I got a couple Donnie Yen things in here.
We're going to get to Donnie Yen.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't worry about that.
Johnny's chiming in. He says Blade versus the Girl Assassin in Blade 2. That was good. I like that. And that was the first kind of real mix of, I think, CGI and live action that we had seen in a superhero film, like with them kind of bounding around and things like that. So I think that was one of those things where if you're wondering if they could do superhero films like we wanted to see them, not with just wire foo and the CGI, really. It was, again, Guillermo del Toro is a great visionary for that kind of stuff.
I'm looking. Nick Gillard. Okay, nice.
The last I had on my sword list, and this was not an exhaustive list at all. I love the fight scene in the end in the the tall grass between Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce in The Count of Monte Cristo.
That's a great, a nice one.
I think that is another underrated film.
Yeah.
I thought everybody there was firing on all cylinders, and Guy Pearce, who is a great actor, but you just loathed him in that film for being so despicable. And Jim Caviezel, who I thought would go on to do more action and things like that, but that just wasn't the path he took. But his fencing in that film was fantastic.
He had Person of Interest?
Yeah, he had that series for a while. Yeah,
he had that series where he was like the ex Black Ops guy who, but yeah, you're right. I thought he would, Passion of the Christ kind of he took him off a lot of lists too.
Yeah, I think I don't know, blacklist would be the word I would use, but he
just different. Yeah,
he made some different choices, I think, as an actor, and I could see him coming back, and I could see him coming back as like almost a guest appearance in a Marvel film where he still has that great face. He's a good actor, and they'll bring him in as, Cyclops' Starjammer father or something like that, but we'll see.
Nice. All right. I think
it's good for swords. Good for swords.
What
Should we go knives? Go knives.
That's next on my list.
Okay.
All right. You go first this time.
Okay. Knives was a little bit tougher for me to get. I didn't have many, but I think probably your list will jog my memory on some. My number one, and I think this will be for a lot of people, I think Johnny's going to agree, is the Raid 2 Redemption. And this was tough because you and I were talking about, we wanted them to have a U.S. theatrical release. Because honestly, in any of these categories, the Asian film market pretty much blows most American films away,
right?
And European films. But I went with the Raid 2 Redemption because it does have a theatrical release in America, is where I saw it. There's, at the end of the movie, there's a kitchen fight scene, and it's the hero versus two guys, and they have the blades that they're holding, and it's kind of got the curve on the outside. And oh my gosh, it is beautiful. It is brutal. It is engaging. It almost is a story in itself where you have, the rising action, the climax, the falling action. I mean, everything is in that one scene, and it is phenomenal. Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
I've seen years ago. I see it. I don't have much.
It's streaming either on Hulu or maybe Prime right now or something like that. Check that movie out again. It is so worth another watch.
I think when it first came out, so we're talking like 6 years. It's got 6 years, 6 or 7 years ago.
At least, yeah.
So it's been a while. Mine first goes back a little further to the 80s.
Okay.
This was.
I'm gonna guess what it is. I'll let you know.
All right. Well, it's Commando.
Oh, yep. You know what? I saw that on someone else's list. I couldn't remember the scene. I remember seeing like Arnold with the big knife and the bad guy who I can't remember, Bruce something, I think.
Bruce Vernon Wells is the actor.
Oh, Vernon Wells. Okay. Yeah. Australian, I believe.
Yep.
And I can remember seeing them, and Vernon Wells in the supposed to look like chainmail, but I think it was crocheted or something like that.
Right.
And I remember I've got that picture in my mind, but I cannot remember the actual fight scene.
Fight scene was pretty. It was Commando. It was the 80s. It was action movies, right? It was over the top. It was cliche. It was him dodging bullets by lifting an arm, and but it was fantastic. It was so.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch all of Commando because I haven't seen it in so long.
And I had the hugest crush on Alyssa Milano, so that was.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. That's maybe when she did that hockey poster, I think, for the Devils, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's that funny feeling? So the next one is interesting. It's Viggo Mortensen versus a Russian gang in Eastern Promises, where Viggo is butt-ass naked through the entire scene and just eviscerating people. So in a hot tub or in a bathhouse, like a giant communal bathhouse.
Russian bathhouse.
So, and
just talk about the trust and the ability in a camera crew and in stuntmen to do that, to do it fully clothed, but much less. I don't care if the blades are blunt or not. I'm naked, and you're swinging at me.
Yeah, I hear that they're. I can't remember what film it was. I thought Northman, but I didn't get to see Northman, so I'm not 100% sure that there was another scene where it was like a naked fight scene, and they just actors were covered and they CGI'd things in later.
Nice.
So, sorry, I got teenagers over here.
Teenagers.
But I thought, that was a great fight scene. Good knife fight scene.
Great knife fight scene. I've the one. There's another one from the '80s I got coming up, and I'm pretty sure it's probably the one you're thinking of. But I'm not going to hit that one yet. First, I'm going to hit this guy. He's not an action star, but he keeps popping up in the movies because he's fantastic. But Daniel Day-Lewis versus Leo DiCaprio, Gangs of New York.
Yeah,
that's a great fight scene.
So many blades in that film,
blades just
everywhere.
Wow, learn how to work with those butcher knives was amazing.
And he's got that apron just full of knives and things like that. That was, and Daniel Day-Lewis, of course, he's going to throw himself into whatever role he's doing. But that was another great. That whole battle scene is just really cool.
Great to watch.
Yeah,
that's also in another section. Brawl.
Brawl. One up for me, John Wick 2. It was the scene on the subway between Keanu Reeves and Common.
Yes.
Which I think how that resolves itself. Hopefully in John Wick 4 we get to see some more resolution to that. But
yes.
And John said the warehouse scene in John Wick 3. I think is where he's in like a museum or a shop or something like that.
Yeah,
and he's just grabbing knives everywhere. Yeah,
throwing him in between their legs. Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was good. But that up close kind of knife fight, I really enjoyed that in John Wick 2.
Yeah, that was. John Wick is another one that we could.
There's so many categories for that particular one. Yeah.
My son said I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this one because this is one of his favorite. It was the fight between Simu Liu and Andy Lee in Shang-Chi. He said he really liked that one, so I'll bump that one for him. I thought it was fun too. It was fun to watch those two. Simu didn't really have a knife, but it was close.
Still, that close in type of fighting is always fun to watch. Where did I put? I'm trying to think of another one, but I can't remember where I put it. Okay, no, I put it in a different category. So, I think the one on your list that maybe is it Under Siege?
No, I was going to put Under Siege on.
See, I thought about that one.
That's a good one
because I remember as a kid, I haven't seen it as an adult, and I wonder if I'd enjoy it as much as an adult. Tommy Lee Jones and Steven Seagal. It doesn't sound like it should work. But I remember as a kid going, whoa, Steven Seagal does know how to knife fight, and Tommy Lee Jones, I think, just figured it out. But I remember there being a lot of slapping and fighting and blocking, and then eventually a thumb to the eyeball. But that was one where I'm like, do I put it on there? Maybe I should wait on that one and see if I can rewatch it. But
yeah, that, also when you're thinking about Tommy Lee Jones and Steven Seagal, you're thinking of them today. And that makes a difference, right? Because they're not the same people they were back then.
Yeah, that is true.
My next one is the one from the 80s that I was thinking of, was a very quick knife fight scene. But that's not a knife. That's a knife.
That's a knife. I thought about that one. I didn't think we could count it as a fight, but it was definitely a standoff.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Or even the gator, knife versus gator, where he sticks it in and then he puts his hand on top and just pushes it. We're talking about Crocodile Dundee. If you haven't seen that movie, shame on you. You got to go back and check that out.
You need to watch it. If you don't know that line, you're in trouble.
So one that I didn't put on my list, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I don't even remember what the American release of it was, but it was Donnie Yen. Oh, I want to say it was Full Contact was maybe the name of it. But Donnie Yen's got a collapsible baton, and another guy's got a knife. And like this guy is like a knife assassin. Like they've set him up in the film to do that, and they have a hallway fight together, and it's just amazing to watch what they're doing, because they even get in. It was one of the first movies that Donnie Yen really brought in like judo and like MMA style, where they're doing some ground and pound kind of stuff, and he integrated it in with the weapons fight, and I was like, poof. But I knew and because I can't even, it had one name in one name in China, one name in Japan, another one in the Philippines, and I think 2 names in the US. And I can never keep them any of them straight anyway. So
Flashpoint?
That may have been it. Yep, that could have been it. But it was a fantastic, real kinetic kind of scene. All right. Next up on my list is Brawl. Is that on yours?
Big, large. Oh, I do want to do a special shout out for Knives, and that's Wanted with James McAvoy and the Exterminator. The Exterminator, do you remember the guy? He was really handy with a knife.
Yeah.
Showed him a little bit. That's just a little shout out.
Yeah.
But yes, Brawl, big. Huge.
I took that as a different kind of category, actually.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this could be interesting. I took Brawl as like just pugilist, fisticuffs, not real martial arts style, just getting into it.
No, I went for me, that's hand to hand.
Okay. Well, then I did an army category, which is maybe what you're talking about. So
so we'll do hand to hand or your Brawl first.
Okay.
And then we'll do big.
Okay.
Group on group.
So for me, the Brawl, and there is a style to this, but it's not martial arts per se, how we think of it. I've got Rocky 2, Apollo Creed versus Rocky. Is that on your list?
Number 1.
Yep, just pounding the piss out of each other back and forth.
That's number 1. It was hard. It was hard because for hand to hand, I tried to avoid the martial arts as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because they sneak in here. So I kind of have 2 different smaller categories in the hand. Yeah. But my number 2, which was one I love to watch. So this is a movie from the 70s. Clint Eastwood fighting Walter Barnes was his name.
Is that Any Which Way But Loose?
Any Which Way But Loose. His name was Tank Murdoch in the movie. and this was a guy he lost to earlier. The whole movie was about him getting back into fighting. And at the end, I mean, it's a lot of straight on shot.
Yep. Pugilist.
Close. Yeah. Very pugilist style. That was I love that movie and that fight scene at the end where the hero doesn't win. Yeah. And it's great to watch.
That I thought about that one. And I remember my dad watched that movie all the time. And I think almost specifically, 1, he liked the monkey, and 2, that scene at the end where they're just literally beating the piss out of each other.
Right.
Next up on my list, Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Keith David over a pair of sunglasses in They Live.
I came to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
Yep. And I'm all out of gum. I like that one because there's a certain realistic piece to that where if anybody's actually been in any kind of fight before, you take a couple shots to the face. I mean, you're not like really with it for a while. I mean, you got to shake some stuff off. And those guys are just throwing each other around. It's a fight. I mean, it is a realistic fight.
It is.
And it's fun to watch.
And I like the movie. And it's a lot of fun to watch. Next on my list is Snatch.
Oh, yeah. Brad Pitt. In the ring, or
no, the first fight when he challenges the guy and the guy's beating the snot out of him and he's falling back against the thing, but he's pushing back up,
stretching out, and
he gets up and all of a sudden he says, "All right, you take lump, you stay till the job's done." And the guy comes at him and
boom, just one shot
spinning around. I love that scene. I love that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. I'm going to go through the chat here. We got a little bit. Johnny says Batman versus the Mutant Leader, which I think they've done in an animation style. But from Dark Knight Returns, where Batman has the famous Batman line of, "This is an operating table and I'm the surgeon." And he's just picking this guy apart. Hey, Paul, good to see you, buddy. He's got Ip Man, Raid Redemption, and Scott Adkins, who is a great American actor. I think he's American, maybe he's Canadian, but does not get enough love. A lot of his stuff goes like direct to video, but fantastic fight scenes out of that guy. He was actually, when they were recasting Batman before Ben Affleck, I was like, you could get Scott Adkins for a steal in by Hollywood terms. He's got a super square jaw. He looked great in the mask, and he can do his own stunts. Dwayne, how's it going? Matrix. Yeah, I'll get to the Matrix in a little bit, but I understand what you're thinking on that. They live, they didn't pull any punches. That's true. And then more talk about Akins. Okay, good. Let's see what I have next up for Brawl. The original Old Boy, the hallway fight scene where it's him and a hammer. And this is the movie that invented the hallway fight scene. Right. Like you see it everywhere now.
Which I got to get to a couple of, and
they're my fun. They're great.
One versus many. And that's,
and it's really just one of those scenes where this guy, I wouldn't call it a martial arts fight. I mean, it is an Asian film and things like that, but it is just guys going for haymakers, and he's got a hammer and he's just picking his way through this hallway.
And if you wouldn't have seen the original, the update, the US update, it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. It just was not anywhere near as tense and crazy as the original.
Honestly couldn't bring myself to watch the American update. No. I might go back and watch it because, Brolin is fantastic as an actor. I really like him. I hear that it's more, if you've seen Old Boy and you get to the climax of the film and you figure out what's going on, I just don't know if I could bring myself to watch that again. So that's why I think that's probably the real reason I didn't take on that one.
And Scarlet Witch and Thanos getting together is just hard.
That's a hard watch. So what else you got for
this one's a bit sorry, are we keeping you up? This one's a bit of a nostalgic one for me because I remember watching it when I was young and it kind of went out of my consciousness and then came back in a little bit because I liked the actor, and then I saw him again when he did his next movie was called Next of Kin, but his first movie was My Bodyguard. This was Adam Driver in his first role ever.
Really?
And I thought, that was his introductory role, and the only real person to come out and have any kind of notoriety out of the film. And I just loved the fight scene there. So they had two fights with this kid hires this bodyguard because he keeps getting. Oh, I take that back. Matt Dillon's in it.
Okay. I'm going to write this one down because I've never even heard of this film.
Never heard of My Bodyguard. So Matt Dillon plays this, and again, this is rose-colored glasses on from a nostalgic time from long ago. This kid goes to high school, and this kid is just bullying him. So he hires Adam Driver, not Adam Driver. Adam, I just said his name. Adam
Dillon.
No, Matt Dillon and Adam. Oh my goodness!
You said Adam Driver before. That's why I was kind of like.
I didn't mean Adam Driver. I meant. What am I saying here? His name just shot right out of my head. See, you gave me all these praises and.
Adam Baldwin.
Thank you, Adam Baldwin.
Were you talking from Firefly? Adam Baldwin.
Firefly, Next of Kin, and he was Jane.
Oh, Firefly. Look at him. He's a child in this movie.
He is an actor for his first role. And there were two fights between him and this guy named Mike because Matt Dillon eventually hired his own bodyguard, and just the realism of kid fighting is evident here. And it was a fun movie to watch.
Wow. I'm looking at the box cover. It's a family feature. And I can remember seeing the box at the video store, but I never watched it. Huh. I might have to check that one out because
Yeah, check
I do like Baldwin, Adam Baldwin,
Yeah.
as an actor. He's done a lot of good stuff and had been in so much stuff, like movies that you forgot he was in. But
Right.
he played like Independence Day. You're like, he's got actually a pretty pivotal role in that movie.
He really does. Usually a military guy. He's got another
Yep.
movie coming out soon where he's a military guy. But
He actually narrated a book available on audible.com, which you can get 30 days free through audibletrial.com/JATG. It is Tom Stranger, interdimensional insurance agent. It's a comedy book, but he narrates it, and fantastic, hilarious stuff. Go check that one out.
It's funny. Firefly was Jane. He's just was freaking hilarious.
I see. I've come to a new. Yes, Firefly is fantastic. I think I'm at the point now where I don't think Firefly would be what it is if it hadn't got canceled. Like, if it got another season, I think it would have gone the way of like Cleopatra 2929.
Okay, I could see that. So
That's-
the reason us brown coats are still excited about it is
Yes.
because it was such a short lived.
Yep. I heard about some of the plans that Joss Whedon had, and it wouldn't have gone well. I don't think it would have gone.
I know with Serenity he got to some of those plans, and I think that worked better as a movie. I agree.
Yeah.
I think trying to stretch that over a TV series would have been a little more difficult and challenging, especially if people would have started talking about his abusive nature prior to the show coming to an end. So I'm glad it was what it was.
Yeah. We can hold it near and dear to our hearts for what it is. My last kind of brawl is what I called it, just the fisticuffs. And it kind of skirts the line of martial arts a little bit. Robert Downey Jr. in Sherlock Holmes, the first Sherlock Holmes film, he's pit fighting.
Where he's talking about it. And
where he's literally planning out the fight. And I think that one sticks with me as much as it does because we hadn't seen that, or at least I hadn't seen that in any movie before, where because fighting is a science and you do need to plan and you need to know your opponent. And, when you're watching a boxing match, like a true boxing match, these guys have studied their opponent to no end. Yep. Watching films, having the people they spar against, you have to fight like this guy. And here's Sherlock going, okay, I know what's going to happen here. And then boom, 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 boom. And the fight's over. And you're like, oh, ooh, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So that was my other brawl kind of category. So do you got another one that would fit into brawl, or
not until we start getting into more Eastern Asian martial arts.
Well,
style.
let's head there because that's the next on my list is literally martial arts. So it is literally guys that it's just a different style. They've had the training. You can see where they're bringing in. It's not just fisticuffs. It's not just pugilists. It's more. So what's your number one, or what's the first on your list you want to talk about?
I teach at my school. I usually do a combat section, and we focus on hand to hand. We focus on short sword, and we focus on staff. And one of the ones there's another movie I'm going to talk about in a little bit, and it's one that we could again any category, but this is the one I almost always show. It's the fight between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris in The Way of the Dragon. I love this fight scene. I love the respect they have for each other. I love the way it ends. I love the cat meowing in the middle. I love everything about it.
I really had a hard time with some of those like 70s era martial arts films. I mean, they're great. I mean, Seven Deadly Venoms, any of the Shaolin lines. I have a hard time actually watching them a little bit now because of the way some of the fights were shot, where it's like 4 movements, stop, maybe 5 or 6 movements, stop. And I'm like, no, man, just keep it going, keep it flowing. And that's why I mean, because like Enter the Dragon, there's so many fights in there, things like that. And even going back to some of the early Van Damme films like Bloodsport and stuff like that, where it's obviously done in the style of that Bruce Lee style. I didn't put him on my list, but I kind of regret it.
Bloodsport's on my list.
Yeah, I kind of regret it. The first one I had up is the first of the series called The Raid, where we had the Raid 2 with a knife fight. But the first Raid film, it's an interesting setup where I think I've talked about this maybe before on the show. I watched two. I was by myself. Wife and kids were gone. I had the TV to myself. I'm watching man stuff. And so first movie I watched was The Raid. The setup for The Raid is that it is a group of cops. There is an apartment building, a multi-level apartment building where they are running drugs and just organized crime out of this building. And on the top penthouse floor is the crime lord. The cops go in. They need to. They're planning on getting to the top, arresting the guy, and getting out. They get locked in, and then on every floor are criminals. And so the guy's like, "Hey, take out the cops," and they have to fight their way through multi-levels up to eventually escape this building. It is pretty much the same plot as Judge Dredd, the reboot of Judge Dredd starring Carl Urban. Mm-hmm. I watched both of those movies on the same night. And what's interesting is they're two movies completely developed independently of each other. Like, I think they went through a lawsuit to see, like, how did this happen? Like, you made our movie. No, you made our movie. And they were just literally developed independently of each other. Judge Dredd was actually finished first, but The Raid came out first. And it's just weird. I watched them both on the same night. So when I'm watching the Judge Dredd, I'm like, I think I just watched this film. And I didn't enjoy Judge Dredd as much as I should have, because I just watched The Raid. Right. But anyway, in The Raid, the martial arts action, and it was another hallway fight, coming in and out of different apartment sections, bashing through a door, bash through the wall, bash through the other door. Just fantastic and brutal.
This next movie that I'm going to talk about is actually in two different categories here, and then one category that I put one against many. So that's where you have one.
Okay. Yep.
And I think we'll save that for a little bit. But The Protector, starring Tony Jaa.
Yes.
This is the fight scene in the temple with the capoeira guy. Yep. Wow. First of all, Tony Jaa is another one where there isn't much. Just fantastic.
I'm surprised he didn't cross over really more into the American market. I heard he really struggled with English, which was part of the reason he couldn't really cross over. And now I believe he's probably in his mid 40s or something like that. So not a spring chicken. But man, that guy, the air he would catch. I mean, just his leaps. And of course he's doing all of his own stunts because it's either Filipino or Thai. I can't remember, but, just amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have one of his movies on my list here that we're going to get to.
I'm pretty sure it's also on my list. But yeah, The Protector, if you haven't seen it, go see it.
Fantastic.
It's amazing.
Fantastic.
One of my favorite fight scenes of all time is coming up here. We're going to talk about it. And it's probably one of my favorite of all time.
Well, the next on my list, and it's martial arts, and it does fit into your one versus many, is Donnie Yen in the first Ip Man movie, where it is versus the 10 black belts, the 10 Japanese, and he's from China. Japan has invaded China and they're occupying, and he's a grandmaster martial arts guy, and he's been reduced to just, how do I feed my family? How do I do this? And he sees what's happening to his people, and he's like, pick your best 10. And just there's one scene where he's just doing these Wing Chun quick punches, which is a very stylized, just, and you see the guy's face like almost cave as he's on the ground, and you're like, oh, and they didn't speed that up. Like, no, that is Donnie Yen just being Donnie Yen, and just so quick, and an amazing fighter, and he just makes it look so easy. But but yeah, that if you haven't seen Ip Man first, the entire series is great. But go look up Ip Man versus the 10 Black Belts and just watch that scene.
Oh, it's an amazing scene.
Over a bag of rice.
Over a bag of rice, and just that was fun. That was great. We watched that movie during the combat training I do with my students.
Yeah,
from top to finish, the training he does at the beginning is just beautiful.
I love the first real scene where he's in his house and he dismisses his family and he beats a guy almost, was it a reed or a feather? Yeah. Or some kind of thing where the guy's literally trying to kill him. And he's like, well, we'll just do this, and just catching the guy left and right, not really hurting him, but catching him.
Great movie. I got a couple that are a little more mainstream, a little more obvious. The first one is The Bourne Identity. Matt Damon, the pen scene.
Yep, that's on my list. That's the last one I put down, the apartment fight. And what I really love about that is at that point in Matt Damon's acting career, and keep in mind that, I'm probably early 20s when this came out. Maybe, I think. What year was that?
Back, because late 90s is coming in my head, but I don't think so.
I think maybe it was 2000.
2002.
2002. Okay, so I'm 24 in 2002, and Matt Damon had transitioned, or this was the movie that made me transition from who is this pretty boy? Yeah,
who's always the jerk in every movie.
Yeah, he's the asshole, or he's the pretty boy, or he's whatever. Yeah. Goodwill Hunting, and you're didn't like Matt Damon. It was almost like if you had your man card, you had to hate Matt Damon at that point. And then this movie came out, and we're like, shit, that was really cool. And it started he takes out the cops and then by the bench, and you're like, oh, okay, well. And then he does this fight scene where he kicks the shit out of a guy with a pen. Wow. Yeah. And you're like, okay, that was something. That was something.
Yeah. I love that scene. What you got next?
Well, I got to get back to my list because I went into IMDb. There it is. So another one people might not have heard of. I did have to look it up to make sure it had a U.S. release. It's a Jackie Chan film called Who Am I? And it's actually an Australian film. It was a joint venture for him. But he has a scene on a rooftop, and it's two guys, one that is all fists and one that is all legs. And he's taking them both on. And it's got that classic Jackie Chan kind of comedy piece, and then it gets super serious, and then it goes right back to the comedy, just in that, again, that Jackie Chan style that no one has really, in my opinion, perfected since then. And it's just one of those amazing fight scenes where you're like, man, how did they shoot these long takes and just perfectly? So it was really, really cool fight scene.
Who am I? Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I've heard about it.
It's a strange film. I mean, he's a cop who loses his memory, and then he's starting to get it back. But there's this, he loses his memory in Africa, is kind of adopted by a tribe that nurses him back to health. And then all of a sudden he's into a rally race, desert rally race. And you're like, where are we going with this? And then it snaps back to him being like a super spy. And you're like, okay, no, that's okay. I'm with it. And it's got, of course, great stunts through the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's Jackie Chan.
It's Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
The other one that was on my list from Jackie Chan, I'll move to Jackie Chan, Operation Condor. The ladder scene in there, which I thought was pretty fantastic to watch. Honestly, with Jackie Chan, Legend of the Drunken Master, Operation Condor, even in Cannonball Run, I remember seeing that first movement with him doing the kick up in the air, and it was like, okay, this guy's nuts.
And I hate to say it, but oh gosh, I can't. Shaolin Cowboy, was that the one he did with
Shanghai Nights?
Shanghai Nights. There you go. Shanghai.
I love that movie.
Was that the first?
First one was High Noon. Shanghai Noon.
Shanghai Noon. That's what it was. where he takes the rope and ties it around a horseshoe, and then soft weapons are so much fun. I'm getting the feeling they want something. My family wants something.
What do they want?
My dice bag. What do you need my dice bag for?
Oh, not the dice bag. Don't take the dice bag.
I know. I got to go back to my D&D shelf back here. Someone has a homework project they got to finish. So there you go. So the soft weapon stuff. I thought about a category for just random weapons or improvised weapons, but that's a rabbit. That's why I'm like, this is a rabbit hole. We could make so many categories out of this. Absolutely. So I think, was it your turn or my turn? I don't know. You go ahead.
You. I just did Operation Condor and JATG.
Okay, so here's my other Tony Jaa film, Ong Bak 3.
3. Okay.
I went back to 3. Which the Ong Bak series is really interesting, storytelling wise. It's a karmic storyline, so it's the same hero reincarnated through 3 films, but they go backward in time. So the first one is the most recent, then you got one, and this one is as far back as it goes. And he's a prince of this Taiwanese tribe, and he has to earn his kingship. He's got to earn his princess. So he takes on 3 different fighters in 3 different styles. And I just thought it was a showcase for Tony Jaa to be able to do this. Like we've mentioned, he is so good. But yeah, the ritual, the 3 fighters ritual, I just really got such a kick out of that one. But even you mentioned it's a similar thing in The Protector. And, even what I liked about The Protector is that he did Kali or Screamin', which is the Taiwanese stick fighting, which I studied for a while. And I thought seeing that on film was fantastic. But and we already talked about Born Identity, so that takes up my martial arts. And I got to touch on one point for the martial arts, but you go ahead if you got any more in that category.
I'll do one more, and it's one that, it's The Matrix. It's Neo versus Agent Smith. It's Keanu and Hugo, and it was a taut, well choreographed fight. Great use of strings, and it was a blast to watch.
So that was actually the one I wanted to mention too, and it's almost like got a caveat for me now. When it came out and I saw it, and I was so impressed with the entire film, specifically because the Wachowskis made sure that they're actors. And this is why martial arts films, this is why the Asian film market really dominates a lot of these action scenes, I think, for us, is because American directors don't trust their actors to really make these look good. So they do these tricks where you can tell they speed the camera up a couple different frames. They do, like, they keep the camera like really, really close and tight, so you can't actually see some of the action. Or it's just shaky cam and you're like, what's going on? Where in that Asian style where they pull the camera back, you get to see the actors do their thing. And the Wachowskis tried to mimic that, or they used that style within Matrix. Now, when Matrix came out, like I said, I was super impressed. Keanu was doing his thing. Morpheus, that actor, Lawrence Fishburne. Thank you. Lawrence Fishburne, both of them looking awesome doing their fight scenes.
Yeah.
And then I started to study martial arts, and within I was probably like a mid belt at that point, and I watched it again and I was like, I can do a lot of this now, and I think I can do it higher, faster, and with better form. So that I loved it, and I still like it, but it definitely changed my perspective on it a little bit. And I wonder if it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing, like with a guitar player who, can jam out, and then all of a sudden you're watching other guitar players and you're like, well, I'm a little less impressed than I used to be because I know how to do that now. So I think that's colored my view of the Matrix a little bit.
Okay.
Unfortunate. It's kind of unfortunate, but I mean, it became harder to impress me a little bit, I think, with some of the action films as soon as I trained up a little bit. But, not that I could do it now. It's been about 12 years since I trained, but but that was something for me. Like when Neo does the kick, holds it out and kind of moves it aside and drops it. I was like, well, I could get that should be up by your head to make it look really cool. And then I'm like, Anyway, I know maybe I'm just too hard on poor Keanu, but
you just don't like Keanu. There is one more I forgot to mention.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
The Last Dragon. The last fight between Sho'nuff.
Oh, yeah.
And Bruce Leroy.
Okay, yeah. No, I was thinking Dragon the Bruce Lee. No, I was thinking Dragon the Bruce Lee story.
Oh no.
Instead of Last Dragon, but Barry Gordon's Last Dragon.
Yeah.
You know, who's the master? Yeah.
Sho'nuff.
And
love it.
That movie is so chaotic, and you're like, how did this get made? Like, who? I mean, other than Barry Gordon, who obviously put up the millions to make it, but it is so off. And like,
you want to use 70s disco music, ancient 70s style kung fu movies, and put them together and have afros everywhere.
And afros, and like, of course, the totally evil, balding white record executive. You're just beautiful. It is so much cheese. And I've actually met T-Mac, the guy who played Bruce Lee. He was at a Comic-Con. And I bought he was there with a t-shirt company, actually, because they produced like a whole line of Last Dragon t-shirts. So I got my Sho'nuff, that actor, he's got the hands out, and he was there. He was like setting up, and he was going to be like selling pictures and stuff like that. But he was like, hey man, what's going on? I was like, hey, I just bought a t-shirt from these guys, and you're here. So I talked to him about martial arts and stuff. Very cool guy. Very cool.
Nice.
So my next up category, I called it Army. And it was really just a mass of people fighting another mass of people.
Yep.
And because there's a lot of pieces to there. I mean, it's almost like the catch-all in some respects, but kind of to set the tone for that category, the first one I had was the Romans versus Germania in Gladiator.
First one, yeah.
Like the just thousands of extras, the troop movements. Even like history buffs will watch that and be like, oh. I mean, there's just so much going on in that section of the film.
Yeah, there's a couple of movies like that I have in my list, but I think I'm going to go in a different direction than you there, and I'm going to say Anchorman.
You're absolutely right.
I love that scene.
Absolutely right.
That really got out of hand there. Really took it up a notch.
Rick, where'd you get a hand grenade? I don't know.
That scene was fantastic.
Oh, and the way it built. I mean, first it's two, and then by the time you get to Tim Robbins coming in from Public News, taking a break from their pledge drive.
Beautiful. Such a beautiful scene. That's
fantastic. Next on my list, I've got Saving Private Ryan, The Invasion of Normandy. Man, I mean, when that movie came out and you heard that there were World War II vets that had to get up and walk out of the theater because that's how real that section was.
Felt so realistic to them, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, nope, I was there, and it's like that. I can't do it, and they had to get up and walk out and come back later. It's weird that we watch it for like entertainment value, but man, I've seen newsreels, like colorized newsreels and stuff like that Spielberg just went, we're going to make that and make that as real as it can get, not just for entertainment purposes, but so people can really see this is what it was like.
And if it was half as bad as that, the fact that they were to continue further into France. Right?
Yeah. I mean, by the time Tom Hanks gets his troops up and they actually kind of get their shit together to start mounting an offensive, you're like, how much fight is left in these guys?
Right.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. That'd be crazy. So what else you got for?
I got a couple more. Braveheart. Braveheart is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Battle of Hastings.
Battle of Stirling.
Stirling. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Great speech right in the beginning. Super false, but still.
Yeah,
like,
there was
it's
no
a great
bridge
scene.
in
Yeah.
in the movie, but whatever.
I love and this is just fun, but like the movie mistakes of like, here he's got the sword on his back, here it's in his hand, here it's on his back again, back in his hand.
And you definitely don't want to watch the fight in slow motion because the
Oh.
cutscenes are, you can see the editor
Like-
wasn't paying
like-
a whole
like
lot
just-
of close
Just
attention.
two guys like bumping into each other,
Right.
or a truck in the background or something.
Right.
Where you're like, what?
But considering the amount of extras they had, it was
huge. But
at the time it was fantastic until Gladiator came along, which was my number one, and that first fight scene where it was just absolutely gorgeous from start to finish.
Yeah.
And you can watch that one in slow motion, and it looks picture perfect.
Yeah.
Almost picture perfect from start to end.
Fantastic. Both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll watch both of those.
Right.
Whenever. Next up on my list is one that hit me as a kid was the Battle of Hoth in Empire Strikes Back. You got a little bit of air combat in there. You got armored troop movement, and then you've got infantry. And I don't know, just something about it. Good. It was a good watch. Good way to open a film.
Great way to open a film.
And that entire movie. What are the good guys doing in that movie? Running. They spend the whole movie running, and they're losing at the end.
Yep. That's why it was at that point they knew they were going to be making a trilogy out of it, and they could do that. But man, it was like, whoa, really? This is how we're going to end this? This is that's messed up.
The bad guys are winning.
Is there a post-credit scene? What's going on?
Yeah, really? No, not then.
not at that time. Which leads me to my next one, which is, of course, the nerdgasm of Endgame and the Avengers Assembly.
Yeah, I think you were with me in the theater when that whole thing happened, and we saw the hammer get lifted. We heard the "on your left."
Ugh.
And I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy it was us. I'm happy it was us in my small little gathering where we were still hooping and hollering, but we knew when to shut up.
Yep. Yeah.
Where the big theater, I mean, you see videos of that, everybody's screaming for 5 minutes. I'm like, shh,
you're missing some important dialogue here, people.
Sit down. Which is why I love my hometown theater.
Yeah.
Props to Matt. Next up on mine, a little bit different. The sub battle in U571.
Okay.
Where and I couldn't narrow it down to one particular battle because as soon as they get in the German sub, that movie just doesn't stop. I mean, it is just one thing after another.
Mm-hmm.
But like when they're pushing the sub to its absolute depth limit, and one guy, I think it was in this film, where he's like, "Hey, don't lean against the bulkhead because the shockwave from the depth charge can break your spine." And he's like, "Oh," and I knew jack about submarine warfare at that point, so I was like, "Is that true?" And then, of course, the internet was a thing at that time, so then I was like doing all this research on sub battles. But that's just another fun film for me to watch, and terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, well, that's what made it so great. The tense, that one, Das Boot was another
Das Boot,
where you're just sitting here watching these guys, knowing at any second, one wrong move, one wrong moment, one explosion, and they're toast.
Yeah,
they're done.
Absolutely, right? There's nothing you can do. I mean, no one survives. Even
if you get out of the sub, you're gonna get the bends on the way up. I mean, or you're not gonna be able to hold your breath that long, right?
No. And I remember Das Boot back when I worked in the video store. It was a double taper. It was a 2 VHS tape box, and you're trying to tell people, "Hey, this is a really good film." They're not in, like, no one was in it for a 3-hour film at that time. Nowadays, if a movie doesn't hit 2 hours, you're like, "What are we doing here?" Especially, and if it's an epic, you're like, "You better be doing 2.5, 3." Right. But at the time, a double taper, they're like, "I'm not in it for that." A double taper, subtitled.
It was the 60s, right? I mean, because we had, or in the early, even the 30s and 40s. I mean, Gone with the Wind was 3 hours, right?
Intermission.
So it had no problem back then, and all of a sudden the 60s came. Like, no, we need to move faster. We want to get it in and out, move it along.
I see that happening with like my kids and the TikTok generation where it's like everything needs to be short and digestible. And I'm like, guys, no, sit down and watch an entire film. Put your phone away, watch an entire film.
Yep.
And the only way I can get them to do that is when we're in a theater because they know better.
You can't leave.
Yeah.
All right. Another nerdgasm. Ready Player One.
Okay. Yeah.
Was
you're talking about
fun.
the end scene?
The end scene where they're outside the castle and you got to look for all the different, you can see Master Chief and
everybody else.
And,
Iron Giant shows up.
Iron Giant. Yeah.
Liked it a lot. Victim of reading the book probably 6 times, 7 times before the movie came out.
Obviously, yeah.
And I'm sure it was just a rights issue. Why couldn't you get Ultraman kind of stuff like that? But the Gundam was cool. But yeah, the knowing what happened in the book and then seeing what they could get on screen. But still, I think it's a fun movie. That's one of my I'll fold laundry to that film. Like if I need something to just be on as I'm doing stuff around the house, I will turn on Ready Player One because the music's great.
It is. It's
all
a fun
the stuff.
Story.
Yeah. Next up for me, the Battle of the Second Death Star and Return of the Jedi. You've got the internal battle going with Darth and Luke, but then the space battle was just. I'm a sucker for a good dogfight movie. I really am, and so if spaceships are involved, it's even better. But yeah, I watched Top Gun the other night just to kind of prep myself for next weekend with Maverick coming out, and I forget. My wife, Chris and I were watching, and we're like, man, this movie doesn't. I mean, it takes some pretty big leaps in terms of narration and like developing character and story. Like Top Gun's only like a 9-week program, but our hero meets a girl, finds out he's an instructor, sleeps with her, falls in love in like 8 weeks, and you're like,
right?
Does it happen that? I don't know about that. But
when you're living your life quarter a mile at a time.
That's true. That's true.
250 miles an hour.
Right. Yeah. Writing checks that your body can't
cash.
What are you going to do? Is that actor still alive? That the general, the guy who was the principal?
I believe he is, but I think he's too old, and that's why they got Ed Harris to come back.
Oh, okay.
And play the role. But I believe he is still alive. Well, maybe he's not. Maybe he died. I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, well, do you have anything else for that category? I've got a couple.
No, we start to head into one versus many for me.
All right. Well, I did. What else did I leave with here? I got Ben-Hur in the Chariot Race.
Okay.
That's you could do a one versus many on that, I guess.
Absolutely.
But I was thinking of just like the mass chaos of that. But I can't imagine what it was like to shoot that. I mean, that was a pretty big feat at the time. And one, Marshall even said it here in the chat. What's up, Marshall? And I totally agree with him. 300. I mean, the battle scene in 300.
So cool to watch.
So
right? Just
cool. I mean,
completely stylized.
So stylized. But if you ever read 300, which was a graphic novel before, it's literally like you can just hold up the graphic novel to your TV and side by side that thing. It is fantastic.
But they couldn't recreate it like Rise of the, what was it, 300, Rise of the Empire, or Rise of whatever it was.
No.
It never, and
that
there were a couple
click.
Other movies that tried to do it. And that movie, it was lightning in a bottle. And it
really was.
To watch.
Yep. And it still is. I mean, I think it holds up as far as the movie goes. Yeah, very cool. So what else? So you're one versus many here. What do you got?
Well, the first one I have is from The Protector. And if you remember, it's the scene where he goes into it's the long shot. It's a continuous shot. It's about a 5-minute sequence of him just going up this building and taking on different people all the way up. Just an amazing scene with the amount of people that he did and all the stunts that they did. It was fantastic. And
I think that was one of the one of the shots where he cleared. There's like a stack of not drywall, but like OSB board or some kind of thing where it's like an 8-foot expanse stacked up, and he clears it. Like he runs, clears it, and puts a knee into a guy's chest, and you're like, oh, how did he? I mean, no wires, nothing like that.
Nothing.
He's just pure athleticism.
Absolutely.
Marshall said Ninja Assassin, the warehouse scene.
Okay.
That was another. Didn't expect Ninja Assassin to hit quite as hard as it did, but that was another great one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of my one versus many.
I got you. Keep thinking. I'll keep.
Yeah.
saying.
What else?
So,
what else you got?
Number 2.
Oh, is it
the elevator scene?
The elevator scene. Yeah.
Winter Soldier. That was brilliant.
That almost made my brawl category because that was yeah.
It makes sense.
Does anybody want to get out and just you're like, oh, you're screwed. The whole lot of you. You're just screwed.
Done. You're just done. The other one that I know this isn't a movie, but I had to mention it because Old Boy. You mentioned Old Boy, but the Daredevil hallway scene in episode 2 of season 1.
Yeah, Johnny brought that up earlier.
Yeah,
earlier in the chat here. But hallway scene. I mean, it became it's like a staple. Now you got to have a hallway fight scene.
Yeah,
and I remember watching. There's a scene in the first Raid film where he literally bounces the guy off like a door frame, like his head. He just goes boom, 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 like 3 times down. That exact same scene I saw in Green Arrow, the series, and I was like, "Oh, this is a cool." Boom, boom. I'm like, "Oh, they stole that from the Raid," but still, it's cool.
It's sincerest form of flattery.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
don't say Anakin versus the children. That doesn't count.
No, that one I was
left
thinking
that one out.
But no, Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3, I thought that was a great scene. His Iron Man when he didn't have his suit and he had to go in and get into the fortress and he fought all the guys, and then that's one of my favorites. And then Ip Man versus the 10.
Yeah. Yep. I'm trying to think, like, what are the? I really liked Neo in the second, where he for the first versus the Smiths.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. Good use of CGI versus combined with practical.
Yeah, at the time, it doesn't hold up now.
Yeah, it didn't really hold up now.
At the time, it was great. It was fun to watch. Yeah. We don't have to stay there. I mean, I've got 2 other categories that I have here.
Yeah. What else did you have? I mean, I'm out of stuff, which is
my
rare.
other 2 categories were gunfights.
Okay. Yeah.
Dog fights and space battles.
Okay. Good. Let's talk about those because I got some gunfights.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So the first one that I think of for gunfights, small film, almost independent. Maybe in fact, it might be independent, called Equilibrium with Christian Bale.
Yep.
And it was one of the first times I think I saw what has come to be known as gun fu, which is a mix of like martial arts, blocking. I mean, they're literally like pointing the gun out and moving it around and doing wrist manipulations as they're firing off rounds.
Mm-hmm.
The gun kata is what they call it in the film.
Yep. I like that movie. I think it is an underrated movie too.
When I taught high school and we did a film section, I would show sections of that film. Or you know what? I even showed it when we read The Giver when I was doing middle school stuff because of the emotional manipulation and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a good premise.
It is. My number 1 for this section, it was hard to pick. There were so many, but a movie called True Romance at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
This stand out, just an amazing sequence of everybody shooting everywhere and the chaotic nature of gunfire and how loud it is and how much can mess with you. That was my number 1.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the lobby fight scene from the first Matrix film. We need lots of guns, and again, very Asian style, like just loaded to the teeth. Grab a gun, throw it away. Grab a gun, throw it away. Just a lot of fun. You know,
lots of fun.
Lots of bang bang explodies in that one.
Great use of guns.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and Chow Yun-fat, he was known for his gunplay in a lot of Asian films, but oh gosh, I just lost the name of the film. It's not The Replacements. Oh, it's gonna kill me. I'm gonna have to look it up. But he did a film that was just, it was all gunplay. Like that's what he was known for.
Yeah.
Chow Yun-fat. Oh, IMDb, you're so funny. He's known for Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. He's like a major international movie star, and they picked the one American film. The
Replacement Killers. Is that what you're thinking of?
No, it's not. Great film, but no, that's not the one I'm thinking of. It's much earlier in his career. Hard Boiled.
Yes, Hard Boiled. That's right.
That's what I'm thinking of. Great film. Good gunplay kind of film. John Wick. I mean, you gotta like when John
gunplay in there,
and shocking gunplay. Like that was when the movie opens, when the assassins come to his house, and oh no, am I thinking of this right?
Which one? The assassins didn't come to his house in the first one.
No. That's why I'm getting confused. Whenever it's in the first film, whenever he eventually gets his guns out again, and finds them, and you're like, well, how's this gonna go? And just the quickness of it all, throw a guy down, shoot him in the head, get another guy, shoot him in the head. You're just like, this doesn't happen in America. What's happening here? Just the kinetics of it all. You're just like, whoa, that's fantastic.
One of my favorites, something a little, it wasn't not speedy, not fast like John Wick, but going back to Saving Private Ryan, that sniper fight. Was just the tension and the slow build, and the trying to find each other, and Caparzo on the ground getting shot. Well, I thought it was a really great scene.
Well, in that case, even going to Russian snipers. Jude Law.
Jude Law
and Ed Harris.
It was called.
What is that film?
It was called. I'm cheating because I can't remember. It was called, but I know which one you're talking about. It was called the. Where are you? That's not it. Let's see.
Something Enemy, isn't it?
Yeah, enemy at the gates or something.
Enemy
like
at the gates, yeah. Because I want to say Enemy of the State, but that's not it. That's the Will Smith film. But I think that's what it is.
I think it's Enemy at the Gates. Yeah, that was a great. Yeah, Enemy at the Gates.
Battle of Stalingrad, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and I got to look at the chat more because Marshall's he's on.
He chimed in. Oh,
he did. Yeah,
thank you, Marshall.
Desperado, Antonio Banderas. So much good gunplay in that film. Right away where he's at the bar, got Cheech Marin on the other side, and the guitar case just kind of
creaks open.
Yeah, that's just so much fun.
I just remember him coming around the corner and
man,
like there's no way you're able to aim that thing at all.
Yeah, just jealous of his hair. Just
everything
flowing and deadly.
The hair,
fantastic.
Show off my hair. I lost my.
Wash cans, man.
What else? Young Guns.
Yes, I was going to mention that. Yeah, I
love that scene.
The last scene where they pops out of the coffin. Yeah. Just that's a great one. I tried showing that to my kids. They were not interested.
They didn't care about Young Guns?
Nope, just not enough, I think, by today's standards.
It's too bad. I love a good Western.
Well, and they got to the point where where Chavez got them high on whatever they were drinking.
Peyote.
Hey, it was a peyote.
It was
we're in the spirit world. It was like,
world.
They're like, nope, we're done.
Nope.
When the guy pukes a little bit, she's like, no, I'm done. She got up and left. Like, okay.
I'm a pugilist. Speaking of Westerns, also Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Butch Cassidy and Sundance. You can't go wrong with that. That's another movie I watched a couple times as a kid, but I got to go back and watch again because that's classic.
It is.
Boondock Saints.
Oh,
just a little bit
all over the place.
What you need a fucking rope for?
Yeah.
Well, you never know. All of a sudden, yep, there's and the way William Dafoe is like, these are trained professional killers, and they're just like getting lucky everywhere.
Love that.
Yeah.
Boondock Saints. It's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
That's great.
Another one of my favorite, Reservoir Dogs. The end of Reservoir Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
The standoff at the end of that was pretty.
Again, another movie I need to watch as an adult because I barely have memory of watching it as a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, so many Westerns. I mean, we could go off. One that I will. Everybody says Tombstone. Tombstone's a great film.
Tombstone.
But the Western that I will stop and watch more often is El Dorado. I'm sorry, no, not El Dorado. Silverado with Kevin Kline.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Kevin Costner.
Yep. Just all those guys.
Brian Dennehy. I'm more Tombstone myself. I
really?
love Silverado, but man, Val Kilmer.
Well, yeah, I can't. That's fantastic. That is really good.
And just all day long.
Just Kevin Costner's like spent a lot of time training that hat. I mean, just he kept going back to that. I was like, that's pretty good. I like that. All right.
Another movie that have you seen The Way of the Gun?
Yes.
The
only scene I really remember is Sarah Silverman getting just popped in the nose
by Ryan Phillippe.
Yeah. But I remember Ryan Phillippe, Benicio del Toro, right?
Benicio del Toro, Ryan Phillippe, yeah.
And really, that's all I remember from the film. I remember watching it, but that was the scene that stuck with me.
One of the greatest lines. I feel like I can say it if there's kids watch it, but
no.
You tell that cunt to shut up before I come over there and start her head.
Yeah.
That was like, what did he just say?
The insults in the film are just
like, what did he just say? But at the end, they're at this abandoned motel, and there's this gunfight that goes on, and they just get their asses kicked.
That's right.
It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. It's kind of coming back to me. I got to go back and watch that film. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other good gunplay.
There was one there's two that I'm thinking of. They're a little more stylized. It was Guns Akimbo with
I liked Guns Akimbo. I really did.
Yeah.
That was a good movie. No one it's again Daniel Radcliffe. Like he made all of his Harry Potter money and said, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
I don't care.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not making a living anymore. No. I'm just doing this because I'm an actor. Right. And he's fabulous. I mean, I loved Horns, and then he did Guns Akimbo, and I'm like, this is great.
Swiss Army Man.
Yeah. And actually, if it's in the romantic comedy area, but the new one, the Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum thing, Lost Island, I think it's called. We just watched it on Paramount. Daniel Radcliffe plays the bad guy, and he's hilarious. Like that's any actor that can break out of Harry Potter the way he's done is like, yeah, he's good. He's a legitimate actor. I truly believe he will have an Oscar by the time he's 50.
I agree. He's fantastic. And then the other one is Clive Owen.
Shooter.
Is that it?
Yeah. Oh no.
Shoot 'em up.
Shoot 'em up. Yep.
Shoot 'em up.
Shooter is Mark Wahlberg.
Shooter's
playing
Mark
the
Wahlberg.
assassin. Pretty good.
Shoot 'em up.
Shoot 'em up.
No kind of plot.
None.
Just running around and shooting the entire time. That's all.
And then with Paul Giamatti, which I did not buy. I did not buy him in that role at all. Love you, Paul. You're a great actor, but as like the marksman bad guy, I didn't get it.
No.
My wife and I sat down to watch that film, and we lost her when she got to the very specialized prostitute, played by Monica Bellucci, I believe. Yeah, we got to that scene, and she's like, "I'm done."
I'm out.
Just done. I thought we would lose her at a guy getting killed with a carrot, but nope, just done after that. I was like, "Where are you going? Don't you want to finish?" Okay, yeah. And I finished watching it, going, "I shouldn't have did that. That was didn't need to watch that."
There was no redeeming value to that movie, but it was a lot of guns.
Yeah, a lot of guns, and that's, I mean, you like the Bad Boy series. I like the Bad Boy series, but there's nothing really creative with the gunplay in there. So I mean, it's just pow pow bang bang.
Right.
So you got to have something special,
yep.
like I'll Be Your Huckleberry or something like that. And now that I'm thinking about it, Quick and the Dead, that was a fairly creative gunplay.
I did like Quick and the Dead. Yeah.
And not a gun movie per se, but I liked the science around it, because they talk a lot about it, about shooting, is the first Reacher film with Tom Cruise, where they talk a lot about marksmanship. And so that, I wouldn't put it in like favorite fight scenes as far as gun battles go, but not bad. I mean, I liked the.
I would pop that one in One Versus Many, though. That first fight scene on the street with the 5 guys.
Oh yeah, where
that's a fun fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Where he's like, okay, here's how it's going to go down. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. You know, like the 2 guys at the end. He's like, really, seriously? Did you watch Reacher the series?
I did.
Oh, loved it.
I thought it was great.
Yeah,
the guy was stiff as all get out.
But that's Reacher.
I think it worked for Reacher.
Yeah, I've seen him in other things. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's a good actor. I like him. He was he was Hawk in the Teen Titans series.
Okay.
So where he's got a little bit more personality and anger issues, but still.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to season 2.
Yeah. Oh, of Titans?
Reacher.
Oh, no, of Reacher. Sorry. I'm like, Titans has got like 4 seasons though.
No.
But you should watch. It's pretty good.
Oh.
Slow to start. Slow to, like, really finds itself, I think, in 2.5 to 3. But all right. So that's probably pretty good for guns. You said you had one more?
Dogfights, space battles.
Dogfights, yeah. I didn't do as much dogfights, but I wanted to, because I like a good dogfight film.
I mean, Top Gun.
Yeah.
That movie changed me as a young man, and I'm so looking forward to Maverick, because I remember being on the playground, running around and deciding who was going to be Maverick, who was going to be Goose, who was going to be Cougar, who's going to be, who's going to be Hollywood, who's going to be Wolfman, not knowing what a boner was, but
really.
They were talking about Wolfman getting a boner because of something. It was just
some kid had to be Merlin, and you're like,
some kid had Merlin. But yeah, just that movie was fantastic, and the fight scenes in there were until you get a little bit older, you realize that they're doing a lot of the same scenes and rehashing them, but it was still fun. And so fun to watch.
We were streaming it on Friday, and I was, for a minute there, I'm like, is the grainy film quality just like how they shot it, or is it just not streaming well? And I think it's just how they shot it. Because they were doing aerial combat, and they didn't have great cameras for that at the time. So I'm really looking forward to what they're going to pull off. And then they do a lot. They do a lot of live photography. Like you're going to see things in Maverick that you're going to think that has to be CGI, and it's not.
No,
thank you to James Cameron for his development in cameras more than film, because that's where he really makes his money. Marshall says Red Tails. I like Red Tails. Yep.
I liked Red Tails. I liked Tuskegee Airmen better.
Yeah, Tuskegee Airmen was good. That's where I was going to follow that one up. And Red Tails, it was one of those George Lucas films where people like, buddy, stick to Star Wars. I was like, I didn't think it was that bad, but
no.
Aerial combat film that I really like, Memphis Belle. Not a kinetic kind of fight, but aerial combat, none the same. And I like Memphis Belle.
I did too. I like that one. That was good. I even liked Iron Eagle.
Eagle, yeah. You can't not like Iron Eagle. Kid of the '80s. He's got his tape deck strapped to his thigh.
Ready to go. Louis Gossett Jr.
Come on. I don't know the name of the song, but I know the opening. Running where the boys run free, burning up the sky. Like I can hear it. I can hear that song in my head.
Okay.
I can
that.
Yeah. Lou's got Chappie, and then he's got to put in the Chappie's dead tape and rescue his dad, played by
it was
Mark because he had a whole series of movies too.
Yeah.
And he just passed not too long ago.
Nope. I gotta cheat.
Yeah, me too. If I can spell eagle right.
Tim Thomerson.
Tim Thomerson. Yep,
yep. One of those character actors that you see in just about every
other 80s film.
A lot of militaries, a lot of military, a lot of military characters.
So I'm trying to think another. I mean, there was, I like the Battle of Pearl Harbor in Pearl Harbor. The rest of the movie was kind of shitty. But you got to see the Pearl Harbor piece, which was, anytime you can recreate history like that, I'm kind of in for it. I liked Midway. Midway wasn't bad.
Wait, which one?
The newer one.
The newer one?
The one Midway, but Battle of Midway was good too.
Tor.
I don't think I've ever seen Tor.
You've never seen Tor?
I don't think so. I know what it is. I can again see the box in my head. I don't think I've ever really watched it.
It shows you both sides, and it's wow. It's it's an older movie. It's
black and white,
cheesy, and it's
maybe
60s.
I can't remember.
But it's a great movie and just tension all around. And
it
really shows that Japan wasn't this big dominating imperialist. I mean, they were imperialistic and they had taken them.
So were we.
But so were we, and they knew what they were doing, and they were a little nervous to do it, but just a great movie. Great movie. I dig that one. And World War II. I love World War II era.
Well, that's kind of.
My grandpa was shot down 3 times. He flew B-2 bombers, and he was shot down in the Battle of Midway. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he bail and they pick him up, or what was the
B-2 bombers were so big that they would take shots and they would they would glide down. He said he landed on the ocean at one point, was able to swim out, jumped out once and parachuted, and he said it was more common than you thought.
Well, I've heard the ocean floor, the Pacific, is just littered with planes and
just all over the place.
Planes and ships and everything else.
Yeah. But taking it further out,
the
Space Last Battle. Starfighter.
Oh, fantastic!
Love that.
What are they called? The mushroom or whatever. The Death Blossom.
The Death Blossom. Thank you.
I've heard of so many false starts on a reboot for that series. That would be phenomenal. I think that would. I do have a Star Command T-shirt that I wear out every once in a while. Because man, that was a great film.
I love that film. And then Star Wars. You can't.
I mean,
it's the
Battle of Yavin. I just saw a thing the other day that says Han Solo as a character eventually comes face to face with Darth Vader after he shows up. He's got a droid that Vader built with Vader's daughter. It just had this list of where Han, he shot Vader out of the sky,
right?
And all this list of things. And then he's like, I'm going to freeze him in carbon. I'm like, no, he probably would have killed him. He would have been like, this motherfucker right here.
Yeah, he's a pain in my ass.
Yep. But that was good. Yeah. I mean, and Star Wars was known for that. Did you ever read the Rogue Squadron novel series?
I never got to that series. No.
Oh man, so good. And like written by someone who was learned in aerial combat. I had to look things up as I was reading that series, as they're like, because they're naming aerial combat maneuvers, and you're like, well, what's that? What's that? And actually now just rewatching Top Gun on Friday, there was a couple scenes where they're in like that big video room where they're like, do this, do that, or when she comes up and says, nope, the right move here is this. They're using those terms that I was reading in Rogue Squad.
That's awesome.
Hope that series, I think it's a series or is it a movie? Either way, I hope it gets made because I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I think they're talking about Rogue Squadron.
It was the woman who did Wonder Woman, I thought was going to do it.
Yeah.
Patty Jenkins. And then I don't know if she's still in or if she's out, but it's in development, like for now. That's what they call it. But other Wing Commander?
Wing Commander.
I did. Yeah. Had such high hopes for it.
It was so horrible.
It was
so bad.
Bad
It was
movie.
abysmal.
But even the I mean, I played the games. Like there was a game on the 3DO starring Mark Hamill as the main character, and the guy Tom Wilson was Maniac Martin. He was the wingman. And they were great. They were shot on green screen. And they had the Kilrathi, I believe was the name of the bad guys. They had a puppet. They had a man in suit with a puppet head, and it was cheesy as hell, but it was good, and you liked it. And then you do like space combat in between. But yeah, abysmal kind of movie. High hopes.
Such high hopes. I like Saffron Burrows. I even like Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I mean, outside of Star Wars, it's hard to think of some of those space combat films. I remember liking the opening scene, the space combat scene from Lost in Space, the William Hurt.
The William Hurt one, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good. They had some cool ship design in there. That was
Star
good.
Trek had some moments.
Oh yeah, Star Trek. Yeah, Star Trek had some great moments. I was thinking like manned fighters, not so much starship.
Right.
But yeah, what I liked about even some of the later Star Wars films is that they did get into like the capital ships, like almost like battleships fighting each other and using those kind of maneuvers.
Yeah, I can't think of any more space that I would even.
Let's see what the internet.
Battlestar Galactica was a TV show, and then back then, I mean, if we go TV shows, Buck Rogers.
Yeah. They talk about. They bring up Dune. I'm like, there's no space battles in Dune. Stupid.
I mean, they're all technically space battles, but not in ships.
They're all space battles.
They were all space battles.
Titan AE. Actually, that was a pretty good movie.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't bad.
That was one of those you're like, you got lost in the Disney-ness of things. But it's right up there with Treasure Planet. Those two came out about the same time. And we mentioned Serenity. Serenity's got some pretty cool space battle scene.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's not what I try not to think about it too much because I'm a feather on the wind. Watch how I soar.
Yeah. Anytime somebody makes a joke like that on the internet, I'm like, too soon, buddy. Too soon. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I mean, you cover the Star Trek films, you cover Star Wars. Last Starfighter is the number one on most of these lists right now. Because it was just that good.
Yeah, I think there's as far as fighting goes, there's a couple of people that I would still follow. Jeff Speakman was somebody I was always a big fan of.
He had the quick hands.
He had very quick hands.
Whatever his style was. Was it Kempo?
Kempo. And then we talked about Hero, but Fearless was another one.
Yeah, I liked Fearless a lot. That was he said it was going to be his last Wuxia film, which is that historical wire fu.
Yep.
And then he got sick, and like hasn't done a lot since then.
Nope.
I think he's better now, but
He
it's
is.
almost like he got like Lyme's disease or something like that, and it really
He lost a lot of weight and
it
got a little scary there for a little bit.
yeah. Ender's Game. That's a good space battle movie.
Yeah.
Kind of forgot about that. And it's another one of those films that my wife really likes it. She'll watch that one just about any time. But the troop movements and everything else, pretty cool.
I mean, what's the one? Was it Jupiter Ascending? No. What's the one with
Independence Day?
well, Independence Day was not bad. But no, this was
Jupiter
what's his
Ascending's
name?
got Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. It had some space battles in it, didn't it?
Did it?
Am I remember correctly? Wasn't it about
I've honestly blocked that
being a
movie
space
out of
princess?
my...
It wasn't great. I'm not saying it would be on my list, but I'm just trying
It was
to
one of
think
those films like
space.
we're supposed to have a lot of prior knowledge,
Right.
and we didn't. And then
No.
you could tell it was very much set up like we're going to do a series of films out of here, and then they did.
And it never happened. It never
Nope,
happened.
never came to be. All right. Well, we have been on for a while now, so
Yeah.
I think we can call it there.
Sweet.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. Always a good time.
You're very well. Can I make a plug real quick?
Yeah.
So, as you know, I'm also an actor.
Yeah.
And,
what do you got?
I've been on stage in 3 years because of this pandemic. I'm doing Shakespeare in the Park with Optimist
Ooh,
Theater. OptimistTheater.org is the place to go. RE for theater,
All right.
not ER. This will be running from June 18th through August 7th at different parks throughout the Milwaukee area. We're doing 12th night. Come check it out.
Ooh, very nice. All right. Well, go ahead and check Ken out if you're in the area, which I think most of our listeners and watchers are. So make a night out of that. Make a good date night out of that. Very cool. Well, thanks for coming, Ken. Always a good time.
Thanks for having me.
We will call it out.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye.